Now, get the facts. This is the TV2 Eyewitness News Weekend Report.
McGee and Diebold throwing left side to Howard. Howard gets away from the defender and scampers in for the touchdown.
The joy of Desmond Howard's go-ahead touchdown is short-lived, though, as Notre Dame comes from behind to beat U of M and ruin the debut of the Wolverines' new coach. Good evening, I'm Teresa Buchanan, and this is a special edition of Eyewitness News. A new coach, but the same old results as Michigan drops a nail-biter to Notre Dame. It's an especially painful loss for Wolverine fans because it marks the 4th straight loss to Notre Dame. No other team has beaten Michigan that many times in a row since Purdue beat the Wolverines 5 years straight back in the mid-60s. Verge Jock joins us now with more on this agonizing loss for the Wolverines.
You mentioned the fans. What about those Michigan seniors who've gone through 4 years now, never beating the Fighting Irish? The Notre Dame mystique continues over Michigan. The Wolverines lose their 4th straight to the Fighting Irish. Top-ranked Notre Dame rallies for 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns to slip by number 4 Michigan, 28-24 in South Bend. The Wolverines go in front on this 1-yard run by Allen Jefferson. It's 17-14 Michigan in the 3rd quarter. Now, in the 4th quarter, the Wolverines lead 24-21, but Rick Meyer finds Adrian Guerrero with 1 minute, 40 seconds to play. The Irish lead 28-24, and that's the way it ends. You saw it here on TV2 while Fred Heumann watched in South Bend, where he's standing by live. Fred?
Andrea. Verge, just another incredible game here at Notre Dame Stadium in South Bend. The last 5 meetings between Michigan and Notre Dame here in this stadium have been decided by 15 points. Tonight's a 4-point verdict. Michigan, the crushing loss. Notre Dame scoring 2 fourth-quarter touchdowns. 28-24 the final. After the game, I spoke with a couple of the disappointed Wolverines, John Vaughn and Trip Wellborn, about this crushing loss.
I really don't know what to say, you know. Go out 45 minutes, play your heart out, and then you lose. I mean, I don't know. I just don't know. Look on the body things. I mean, we played good at times, you know, but they wanted, the tempo went to their side one more time than did ours, and that was the margin of outcome. But hopefully we'll come back next week and be ready to play.
Well, you can just imagine the disappointment on the Michigan side. They had this game, and then the interceptions, the mistakes, and then Notre Dame, to their credit, drove down the field 75 yards in 3 minutes. In the final 4.5 minutes, the game put it away. We're attempting to get more reaction from the Michigan locker room and have that a bit later in sports. 28-24 the final. Reporting live from South Bend, this is Fred Heumann, TV2 Eyewitness Sports. Verge?
All right, thanks, Fred. We'll see you back in the sports section. Of course, we'll have more Notre Dame Michigan highlights then, and also some Michigan State highlights.
Okay. Thanks, Verge. In other news tonight, a tense situation in Garden City ends tragically when a barricaded gunman kills his hostage, then turns the gun on himself. Another man was also shot and wounded, and a 4-year-old girl injured during the 5.5-hour standoff with police. Mark Tadino has been on the scene all night long. He joins us live with details. Mark?
Teresa, the crime scene is still intact. The people who were killed inside are still there, as is the murder weapon, described to us as a shotgun. Right now, the police from Garden City are inside going over the crime scene and waiting for the medical examiner to show up to try to go ahead and finish up this place. The crowd is still here at 1 o'clock in the morning just to attest what kind of situation captured the imagination and the interest of the people who live in this neighborhood. But everything came to a head about an hour ago. It was then that members of the SWAT team from the Michigan State Police fired concussion grenades into the house at 210 Clare Street in an effort to try to roust the gunman, identified as James Smith, out of the house. When they entered the house, they found that the gunman and his hostage, identified as Patricia Solanke, had been killed. They were dead on the scene, and they think they had been killed for about 5.5 hours, and had been that way. What started this? Well, according to police reports, it was a jilted lover. He had come here, the gunman had, in an effort to try to go ahead and resurrect a love relationship. When that failed, he got angry, returned to his car, came back with a shotgun, chased members of the family out of the house, and began firing shots. It was then members of the police department from Garden City showed up, began waiting out the gunman. According to eyewitnesses, around 5:30 this afternoon, a lone gunman with a rifle, identified by family members as Jim Smith, broke into the house at 210 Clare Street in Garden City. His target was his ex-girlfriend, Shirley Solanke, who had just recently broken up with him. As he went into the woman's house, her sister and mother saw him threaten family members.
Came over here with the shotgun to kill all of us.
What did he say when you walked in?
He's had the rifle in my head when I was on the phone trying to call the police. Then he grabbed the phone, he ripped it off the wall, and the cord came off. and then he shot at my foot, and the bullet's probably still in the wall.
One man was injured, identified as a relative of the family. He was taken to Garden City Hospital and is in satisfactory condition. One of the woman's children, a 4-year-old girl, was also injured. The police aren't sure if she was hit by a stray bullet or just injured on the way out of the house. Mary Kolashevsky, whose daughter is the hostage, fears the worst for her daughter's safety.
So he had her in the bedroom, on the bed. I don't know if she was hollering. She was hollering at the beginning. When I heard the 3 shots, I don't think she's living.
Unfortunately, Mrs. Kolashevsky's prediction was all too tragic. That happened about 5.5 hours ago. Behind me is the victim, actually the suspect's car. He apparently came back, took that shotgun from that car, went inside, and began shooting. Teresa, a tragic end to a very long evening. I'm Mark Tadino, TV2 Eyewitness News, reporting live from Garden City.
Thank you, Mark. The other man who was shot has now been identified as Brian Goddison. He is listed in satisfactory condition at Garden City Osteopathic Hospital. It has been 24 hours since the United Auto Workers Union agreed to extend its current contract with General Motors. Negotiations have been going on all day long at GM headquarters in Detroit, but they have yet to reach agreement on a new contract. Meantime, UAW workers in Canada are saying no contract, no work. They are already on strike against Ford Canada. TV2's Bill Gallagher has been following contract talks all week long. He joins us live now with this early morning update. Bill?
Teresa, they've been bargaining here for 15 hours, and there's still no word that a contract agreement is near. There have been no statements or even hints from either side about how long they'll bargain through the night. Contract language on job security and plant closing issues may be responsible for the talks being bogged down. That's one day after the UAW granted a contract extension in an effort to reach an agreement. The UAW can end that extension and order a national or selected strikes at any time the talks break down. Meanwhile, in Canada, the strike against Ford is in its second day. The Canadian auto workers are still negotiating during the walkout, which in a short while could cripple some Ford operations in the U.S.
What's going on right now is they're all talking, but nothing's going to really happen. They're just biding time. But for the guys over there, if we are for a long time over here, it's going to affect them over there type thing, eh? Because everything's all locked up in the warehouses right now.
The Canadian auto workers talks with Ford.